You spoke earlier today with students about this division within the Republican Party of classic conservatism versus more of a populist movement. Do you think that's mostly about economics, or is there a social aspect to that division as well?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with size and scope of government, but I think that chiefly it gives its expression in a willingness to kind of think in more isolationist terms. I mean, for my part, we have now marked 4 years since Russia's brutal and unprovoked invasion in Ukraine. And I've been unwavering in my belief that the United States and Western nations need to continue to give Ukraine the resources that they need to defeat the Russian military and reclaim their sovereignty. Now, there are those in Republican ranks who've questioned that, who actually advocated cutting off all funding to Ukraine. But I've met Vladimir Putin, and I can tell you, I have no doubt in my mind, if Vladimir Putin overruns Ukraine, it's just going to be a matter of time before he crosses a country that our military is going to have to deal with it. And so there's even those that are questioning our historic support and our relationship with Israel. Sometimes there are even some voices on the fringes that speak in very dark terms about American support for Israel and the role of Jewish Americans in the life of our nation. And so I think it begins with the isolationists, but I also think the principles of limited government. It seems like the Republican Party doesn't talk very much anymore about a $38 trillion national debt and the need to bring common sense reforms to spare our kids and our grandkids of the consequences of a mountain range of debt. And lastly, while our administration in our 4 years, you cut taxes, rolled back regulations, we've seen in this administration, expansion of border taxes in the form of tariffs, nationalizing American companies. I think more than a dozen companies now that the government's taken a public position in, and so it's that it's kind of the isolationism, big government republicanism that I think are the largest departures. I will say, though, during our administration, we used tariffs under existing statutory authority to really try and negotiate down trade barriers. I'm proud to say we used tariffs in the Trump-Pence years and the threat of tariffs to bring trading partners to the table. We imposed tariffs on China and ultimately achieved the first breakthrough in trade negotiations with China in a generation. But I took great exception when a year ago President Trump announced tariffs against friend and foe alike under an emergency statute. Our small foundation in Washington, D.C. was one of a handful of groups that labored in the courts in support of legal challenges. I believe the Constitution is quite clear that when it comes to taxes and tariffs, those are originated in the Congress. I don't need to tell people in Pennsylvania we're coming up on a very memorable anniversary, 250 years since the American founding, the Declaration of Independence, crafted just down the road from here. And you might remember that taxation without representation was a big part of that. And as I reminded some of those students here at Susquehanna today, the tea that went into Boston Harbor was thrown into Boston Harbor because of tariffs that had been imposed on by one person. And so when the founders ultimately crafted the form of government that's endured for 239 years, they said that the Congress, in Article 1, controls taxation, including imposts it's what they called tariffs in the day. And I strongly and heartily welcome the decision by the Supreme Court of the United States to uphold the separation of powers and turn back President Trump's Liberation Day regime of tariffs. I think it's a relief for American businesses, American workers, and a great affirmation of our constitutional order.